Welcome to Kettlebell Corner, where strength meets theory, where we take you on a deeper dive into all things kettlebells. And in this episode, we're going to take you to paradise. All right, you're on a desert island, and all you have is every kettlebell you can imagine. But we need to round out our training. So today, we're going to talk about our top 5 exercises, movements. We'll figure out what is what and how they can complete your kettlebell training. I'm Jeremiah Waylon, and he's Roger Parks. And by the end of this, you'll have a short list that you can go off of to become superhuman-ish. What's up, Roger? How you doing?
Not bad. You always surprise me in two ways. One, I'm never really ready for us to start recording. And then the second way is the random nonsense you say as we get started.
I've got 2 tickets to paradise. I've got 2 tickets to paradise. Why don't you pack your bags? Let's leave tonight.
Is that a cultural reference I don't get?
Eddie Money, man. Come on. All right. Well,
anyway,
based on our audience demographic, they'll get it.
Okay. Good for them.
All right. So we talked about how we could have complete training programs. Even though kettlebells are so versatile, they leave something on the table here and there. Would you agree with that, Roger?
All right. I do agree with that. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Well, let's talk about what we're kind of leaving off the table. Everybody knows kettlebells do all the things. And if you don't, you can check out our episode in defense of kettlebells and they'll cover that. But what are we leaving off the table and why did we choose to do this particular episode?
I think it's important for people to understand what they may not be getting with their kettlebell training. If you're watching this, you're likely interested in kettlebells. If not, I don't know why you're watching this. So we're assuming you're interested in kettlebell training. You find it effective, efficient, fun, whatever. But it doesn't do everything. And I think that there are some things that most people ought to introduce and ought to have in their workouts. And that's what we're really talking about today. You know, we set it up as a, desert island kind of thing, because once you're there, you can't get other stuff or whatever. I don't know how far we want to go with the stupid analogy. So let's just basically say, these are the 5 things that you might want to consider doing, in our opinion, that you may or may not be doing in addition to your kettlebells. So,
all right.
Setting the table for all of this, we're assuming you're not a strength athlete, because if you're a strength athlete, then you should bring barbells, all of them, rather than kettlebells with you to your island, or you're a dum-dum. We're also assuming you're not a bodybuilder, because you probably want dumbbells and cables and machines and stuff like that. So cool. So we're assuming you find kettlebell training worthwhile, and you want to make sure you've got 5 things that will round out your training, and this is what we think they are.
All right, number 1, let's cut to the chase and get right into it, Roger.
All right.
The barbell deadlift, the granddaddy, the one that's the most satisfying exercise in my repertoire, even though I left it out of my repertoire, and that's French, for so long. Roger, what makes the barbell deadlift the big one? The big number 1?
Okay. So first of all, this is where the analogy breaks down. Because if I've already got a barbell there, I can deadlift it, but I can't overhead press it. Anyway, let's forget about that.
Don't you dare overhead press it. Don't you roll under it and do it.
I know you're not allowed. You're not allowed. I can't, make a bench out of bamboo or whatever. Anyhow. So,
what island are you on? I don't think bamboo grows on islands.
Well, I think it does.
Okay.
Well, someone will fact check us. Anyhow,
yes, please, in the comments.
So why a deadlift? A deadlift, a barbell deadlift specifically, because you need to have more load if you're going to do a meaningful deadlift. I generally, and not all the time, but generally, once you are an advanced practitioner with kettlebells, I think that a kettlebell deadlift is usually a waste of your time, just because it's not heavy enough. We're not talking about, we're also not talking about this idea of, we're training a hinge with a swing. Cool. If that's what you want to think, then that's cool. Even if you are training the muscles to behave in different ways. One of the main differences between grind lifts and ballistic lifts is the idea of constant tension. When you're doing a swing, for example, short leg drive, you're launching that kettlebell, that it's not effectively weighted or heavy for much of the movement. So you're not getting the same muscular behavior that you would with a deadlift. Deadlift requires constant tension. And one of the mechanisms that's going to overload that pattern is load itself, is you got to get heavy. So for beginners, for patterning the movement, kettlebell deadlifts are fantastic. If you, for whatever reason, have an aversion to going heavy, you can stay there. For the two of us, we're healthy, we're strong, we're advanced. We need more. And they don't often make kettlebells heavy enough. Even if we got a pair of 200 plus pound kettlebells and we decided to deadlift them, it would be a strange pattern. We would have a really hard time setting up. We don't need to get too far into that. So the basic idea with the barbell deadlift is we need more overload. We need more weight, simply put. And if this is an important pattern, we think it is an important pattern, then you should train it in a more ideal way. You're going to have an easier time overloading it with a barbell than with kettlebells or anything else.
Dumbbells, anything. Yeah.
Sure.
And, you know, another bonus to the deadlift is it is going to help your grip strength, especially going heavy. And that's going to carry over to certain areas of your kettlebell training, like your snatch or a snatch test or even something like that. I want to ask you, Roger, so we said the barbell, but what about the trap bar? Is that something that could be available for this sort of thing, or does that got to stay on the ship?
Well, I think that they both will get a similar job done. And if you're looking just for overload, a trap bar can do that. A trap bar will give you a little more versatility in terms of room to move. And if you have an open trap bar, I don't know if you've seen those where one of the sides is kind of carved out. You can even get in some
ripped
cool
off.
you can get in some cool split stance work. So it's a useful bar. It's a versatile bar. Will it train your body the same way? It will not. So if you can't hold up to the barbell version, cool. But I think one of the most important factors in a successful barbell deadlift is the bar path and keeping that bar over the foot and learning how to move your body around that line that goes up from your foot up to the top of the lift. And one of the main things, if you've gotten advanced and you started to add some load to your deadlift, is you have to get that lat engagement, which is going to be kind of middle. A lot of people think your lats are a little higher than they actually are. They do attach to the humerus, so they go high, they attach to your arms. But the bulk of that is going to be kind of the middle of your back and down. And when you get heavy, right? And I've been working, this is not something I have a ton of experience with, but I've been working on getting a heavier deadlift. And one of the things that very quickly stands out as a limiting factor is your ability to hold that bar close to you. So when you get a really, generally when I get above 300-ish pounds is when I really start to feel like, okay, my back is kicking and my lats are doing some work to keep the bar nice and tight over my feet. That translates to a huge degree to your other kettlebell moves. Once I started going heavy and supersetting that with some snatches, some kettlebell snatches, I really felt a nice tight arc on the bell because I could really feel my back and its ability to control the bell. So does the trap bar, is it a decent substitute? It's a decent substitute, but you're not going to get that same activation just because your center of mass is more in line. You will have some lat activation, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same because the barbell always has to stay in front of you. And that little bit of distance that you have to manage requires greater lat activation. And I think it just is a more complete training effect that way.
Excellent. And I have to agree with all those. It's the number one for a reason. Let's talk about number two. And this one, Roger, maybe you can quantify some of the exercises or what we'll be doing with it, but this is more of an implement, and that's the Mace bell, or they call it Mace bell or just Mace?
Yeah, some people, Mace,
Yeah, I
Mace
just call it
bell,
Mace.
Steel Club.
And then you got Steel Club, those are a couple of things, but what we're going for that is some rotational training, not rotational turkey. So tell me why this one made the list and what are the benefits of using a Mace?
Again, you have to go back to where we started. We are assuming that if you're using kettlebells, you want to get strong, but you don't necessarily want to get freaky strong. You might want to get some muscle, but you don't want to get freaky huge. This is, I think, a good tool to fill in some of the gaps. These tools work well in the frontal plane. Kettlebells do not. It's really easy to take out a kneecap. So can you do stuff in the frontal plane, which is, if you're standing in front of you and you're waving, your arm in front of your knees back and forth, side to side like that, that's the frontal plane. So if you're moving objects in that way, I think you do some really neat stuff for your body. I think that you fill in some gaps. I think that you get some good balance. You work your muscles side to side. There's some interesting oblique stuff that happens. There's some interesting rotational stabilization that happens, or you can actually rotate with the movement. But it's a really useful pattern, and you can do, or it's a really useful plane of motion to move in. So you can do things like Mace 360s, which go behind your head. Those are great for the shoulders, for the midsection, for even the sides of your hips to be able to stabilize. It's just something that doesn't get hit an awful lot really in any other in most types of work in any other modality. You can get some of that with kettlebell training, but you don't get quite enough, which is why we included it. So there are some swipes and some swings and some different things that you can do. The club is a pretty versatile tool, and talk about, like, especially when you start to get heavy, you can really get some killer grip strength with that as well. So I think it's worth it. I think that I notice a difference in both how well my shoulders function, how well my midsection functions. In fact, heavier Mace 360s have helped me stay in control once I start pressing a heavy bell. Because when you get half body weight and above, one of the main things you have to manage is that lean, that side to side. And when you start getting a heavy mace going behind your head and swiping in front of her and behind of your body, you have to really be able to tighten up laterally, side to side. And when those muscles are on and you can really find that control, you can carry that over into the press quite well.
Yeah, that's some Viking stuff too. I think we share the sentiment that oftentimes we begin our training sessions or our workouts with some mace, these 360s, particularly the heavy 360s, really get it going. And obviously you work up to this stuff. It just makes you feel like you're online. You can do this check-in, your shoulders get loose, your core begins to activate. And even with those heavier 360s, again, you're going to work that grip, which is, important for aforementioned deadlift and all the kettlebell stuff that we're going to do, because we have so much kettlebell stuff. However, there's one glaring fault to the kettlebell itself, and this is the vertical pull. So, of course, tried and true, the pull-up is the next exercise that makes our list, number 3. And here's a fun fact for you, Roger. I used to play in a band, and we did a music festival in Pensacola Beach, Florida. We swung by the Marines booth, and your boy here, I won the pull-up contest for strongest man in the band. I racked out 19 pull-ups in front of the Marines, and they loved it. I was doing P90X at the time, so it was nothing but pull-ups, so that's why I was able to get that. But, it's a valuable thing. It's a cool thing. So tell me why we're doing these pull-ups outside of being strongest man in the band, Roger.
Wait, how many people were in your band?
6.
And
what was
the next total?
Oh boy, I don't even remember. Nobody remembers second place, but I think it was probably like 10 or 12 maybe. And it wasn't close. Let me just say it wasn't close. But the Marines did give us a bunch of free swag to throw out from the stage, and that's pretty cool.
So this is the point where we realize that the sample size really isn't relevant to prove anything. I will have you know that I am the most handsome man in the room right now with no hair. So
that's correct.
Yeah.
Hey, we can all agree on that. If you're not watching this, fire it up and you'll be able to see.
Anyway, so we're talking about pull-ups.
Yeah.
Even just having the ability to hang, I mean, not even necessarily pulling up, is pretty awesome. You can do some good stuff to decompress the spine, relax your shoulders in a sense, get them stronger in a sense. You can do some cool breathing, get your abs online. And then the actual strength and developing those lats in a different way. It will really teach you some important lessons about tension and how to keep your body really controlled. This is, I've seen some differences in how to do pull-ups in order to get more reps, and a lot of people will arch quite a bit. That's not generally the way I do them. That's not the way I was taught, because I'm doing them for different reasons. I'm not interested as much in repetition
reps.
as I am in full body. I'm okay with not being the strongest man in the band. So
Shoot
I'm
yourself.
okay with knocking out a few really solid reps and staying really, really tight in the middle. But it's this ability, almost like zip up, to keep a really, really strong line from the midsection all the way up to your neck, and really connect everything and pull. So pull-ups are definitely not one of my strong exercises, but definitely one that's worthwhile.
Yeah, and they're scalable too. I mean, if you can't do a pull up, you can use a band to assist, and then begin building that.
Well, are we bringing a band to the island? Like, I feel like you're changing the rules.
Oh, no. It's going to be made out of palm fronds. So,
Okay. Yeah, because those are super elastic.
But you do have you do have a kettlebell, so you could add weight. And
Yeah.
I believe we ditched the island metaphor a long time ago, Roger.
Okay,
So, this isn't like very very strict to the rules. Okay, so the pull ups, we agree, and that's a very important one. Plus, the hanging, I love that aspect. Plus, you can bring in some core work with that, hanging knee raises, leg lifts, L sits, these sort of things. So it's pretty solid all
You
around.
can do, I don't know what they're called, but like there's a certain variation of pull-ups where you can do them with kind of like that L shape. So you lift you lift your leg straight out, and pull-ups actually feel more comfortable for me that way.
Oh, with your legs straight out.
Yeah,
Feel more
I think it
engaged or
has
whatever?
it might. I think it has more to do with my pelvis being underneath my rib cage, and I feel like my lats tend to get tight because I lift heavy things. So it could be kind of a workaround for a mobility issue. But yeah, when I bring those legs out, I feel like in better alignment. My shoulders feel better when I do them.
Yeah, I like that.
That's my guess. I haven't spent much time really thinking about it.
All right, we'll do an episode on your pull up. What about like if you have rings or something? Is that acceptable to do some pull ups
Sure.
on that? I know there's like a lot of freedom of motion with that, and maybe if you have grouchy elbows, you can kind of help work that more neutral grip with the rings.
Well, let's zoom out for a second, and this is something that everyone should do who watches or listens to every one of these episodes. We try not to talk too specific about ideas and patterns. We try to be, when you distill it, we try to be as general as possible so you can get some general rules. And in this case, one of the general rules that you should understand is that there is an inverse relationship between complexity and intensity. So inverse just meaning as one goes up, the other one goes down. So you start to do your pull-ups on rings, you will gain, potentially more range of motion. It will be less stable. So you're going to compromise your ability, let's say, to pull up really fast. You're probably going to compromise your ability to max out the number of reps, but you will get some more, let's call it stability training, and there will be more positions that you can attain. So, you before you get off the ship, these are the things you want to talk about. Am I going to bring the rings, or am I going to bring the straight pull-up bar?
The pull-up bar, and you'll be placing it somewhere on the island.
I mean, simply put, it's going to be hard to pull hard off of the rings. It doesn't mean that people can't do it. They don't get really good at it. It just means that you're asking yourself to do a different type of training.
Got it. Okay. That's fair. All right. And then, okay. So kettlebells, we all know that you can press with them. Press vertical. It's one of the main lifts. It's exciting. You feel awesome when you do it. But one place where it lacks is that horizontal press, such as like a bench press or something. But we didn't bring a bench, Roger. So we're going to use the world's most versatile, readily available exercise, the push-up. Drop and give me 20. Why did we pick this push-up? Or did I sum it up?
No, you did not.
Okay. That's why you're here.
Those are the primary reasons. We have to step back. We do have to understand that you can do a floor press with a kettlebell.
Yeah.
You can. A few things happen though. One, it's very difficult to do doubles once you get heavy because it's hard to get the bells into position. You've got to set them up just so, and that can be a little challenging. When bells get really heavy, in this scenario, we have all the bells we need. As they get really heavy, they get really tall, right? And if you don't have a bench in particular, it's really, really difficult to go through a full range of motion without your kettlebell smacking the ground. So logistically speaking, it's difficult to do doubles with a floor press. So the push-up gives you a nice bilateral pattern. So you're pushing both hands at the same time. You can't offset them if you want to do that. You can increase the speed. You can come up. You can even do a clapping push-up if you want. You can do a one-arm push-up. There's some variation there that you're not going to be able to get with a kettlebell. You also have to understand that you are not braced against the ground. The ground is not supporting you. So you have to, in a way, become your own bench.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then again, we're talking about that feeling of like kind of zipping up in the middle, getting really, really tight, and body control. So playing with leg angles and arm angles and all kinds of stuff. I think push-ups can give you quite a bit of versatility, and I don't think it's out of bounds to even kick your feet, up against the palm tree and do some handstand push-ups too.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's there. Let's use the tree, even though
Why
the tree
not?
didn't make the list. All right.
It was there, man, with the bamboo.
It's all there. All right. So we got our push-ups everywhere. Everybody, if you got good shoulders, you can do those, and they will get it there. But we got to talk about the next thing, and it's a sort of a buzzword, but it's that zone 2 cardio development. That's number 5 on the list. Zone 2 cardio development. And let's say we're talking, something you can do in a steady state for longer than 5 minutes, aerobic training. What are we going to for that, Roger?
Well, I mean, if you don't want extra equipment, you can run around the island. You can hollow out one of those trees and make a kayak and do a little rowing or something, or a canoe. I don't know what type of boat one makes on a desert island. Maybe someone can help me with that. Yeah, clearly, it's the best answer. But maybe you bring a treadmill. Maybe you bring a bike. Maybe you bring one of those awful assault bikes, so you can really you can get some high intensity interval training too if you want. The idea is, some people think you can get a true zone 2 with kettlebells. And the reality is you're going in and out of all the zones, not all of them, but many of them as you work out. And you can manipulate them somewhat, but it's difficult to get a true steady state in that zone 2 range with kettlebells, because you tend to get above that. So, people can do long bouts of kettlebell work, especially if you're getting into the kettlebell sport, which we don't know anything about. But it's really difficult to do kettlebells for the period of time someone could say run a marathon, right?
Yeah.
So we're really looking at the ability to train this one facet of your wellness, of your health, that is difficult to train in another way. So that's why some sort of zone 2 would make the list. And again, you could run, swim, whatever, or bring a piece of cardio equipment, whatever it is, something that can just get your heart at a particular rate, and you can keep it going there for 40 minutes plus. Do you have benefits? Do you have benefits lower than that? Yes, you do. But if you're really going to start training this, then I think that 40-minute threshold, from what I've seen, is a pretty decent, like, hey, let's do at least that much. And then, I don't know where it tops out. That's more your field of interest at the moment than mine.
Yeah, I will say, desert island aside, there are many options. If your body's hurting or you're feeling it in your joints, then a bike is probably going to be the best option. If you like a repetitive motion, something more total body, your row machine is going to be great. I personally did a lot of running, and I still enjoy running. I haven't done it since the marathon. Just, my focus and my goal shifted. But I notice, and I have always noticed, that when I incorporate some sort of steady state zone 2 running, I am much more confident when it comes time to do snatch tests or anything where I need to recover quickly in between, whether it's rounds, sets, or whatever it is. And so there is a lot of benefit to that. And I just know that it helped my confidence. And that's just speaking for me. But, people say they hate running. Well, run a little bit, walk a little bit, mix it up. You're really trying to target this heart rate. And if you're looking for the most accurate heart rate, wear the chest strap, or you can just use the watch, whatever. I mean, if you're breathing super heavy, you're out of zone 2. So dial it back a little bit. It's okay to pull it back a little bit.
That's fair.
Keep it simple.
And I will also attest that, I love when certification time rolls around, I love doing all the skills, especially the heavy stuff. I do not like the cardio. And when the last time I passed the snatch test, which was still awful, I had been doing a little bit of cardio, and it was much easier for me. I don't like it. I'm not someone who likes to run even if someone's chasing me. So it's never really been my thing. But when I started doing it, and I've followed all kinds of prep guides and, all sorts of modalities, and it's generally frowned upon in the kettlebell world. Was it the dishonor of cardio?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is it? Is that
They'll,
is that the line?
yeah, they'll make a lot of arguments for other variations of their
Sure,
stuff.
and on those arguments are stupid. Let's just call them what they're dumb. There really is. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as bad for the most part. It's very difficult to find anything that's truly bad or useless. It's really about the application, and I can also agree that the application of this does make this one particular endeavor much easier. So good for your health, good for your longevity, and it's something that I should be doing more of,
Yeah.
but probably won't. So
Oh, it's like a break glass sort of thing. As needed, you're going to cram it in there and get it done. You can even add like a rucksack for just a little extra, and get up in them hills. All right, Roger, that's our top 5. We got the barbell deadlift, we got the Mace or the steel club. You doing some rotational training with that, pull-ups, push-ups, and zone 2 cardio, whether you're using some sort of machine or you're just out there jogging or whatever. And we got an honorable mention, and I want you to reveal this honorable mention. Big reveal, Roger. This is like one of your favorite things right now, and I want you to talk a little bit about it. So what's the thing we already got that we can use a little bit more of?
the barbell row, specifically the barbell row. It's not that you can't do barbells with kettlebells, but it has to do with that line of,
You mean rows with kettlebells?
Yeah. What did I
Yeah.
say?
Barbells with kettlebells, because you can't do barbells with kettlebells.
That makes no sense.
That's
like I'm a
right. I
stupid
got your
person,
back,
clearly.
bro. I got your back.
Anyhow, yes, you cannot do rows with kettlebells the same way, because the bell has to push, either it will push the bell forward over your feet a little farther than I'd like it, which makes it difficult to get your hips back to the same degree. So so you compromise the shift. You can do them inside of your feet, or you can do them outside of your feet. But it doesn't feel right or natural. So some exercises like gorilla rows or split stance rows with kettlebells, those are great. No qualms there. But the sheer ability to find a really, really solid position. Now, the upright row, especially with a barbell, was an exercise that I could not figure out. Now, I started working out when I was probably in 5th grade. Me and my dad would go in the garage, and we had those shitty plastic weights that were filled with concrete.
Yeah, sand, yeah.
And
is it concrete?
Ours were
tiny hole?
concrete inside.
Okay.
Yeah. Ours were concrete inside. Yeah, no, not the Olympic plates, but like the tiny little, you had the little spring clamps, and we had a poster with people with their socks pulled up to their knees, and the workout was do everything on the poster.
Yeah,
okay?
Nice.
We would do the same thing every day.
Every day.
No progression. No, like, do 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 10. Anyhow, so the barbell row was always an exercise that hurt my back. I couldn't get it. My dad didn't know shit about shit, so I just stopped doing it, and I wouldn't, I left it alone for a long time, but then I started realizing the potential applications. And it was really when I started looking at physics and understanding the line of gravity more. And the basic idea is your line of gravity is, the line of gravity is where gravity passes through your center of mass. And if you can keep the bar lined up with your feet, which is where the whole system kind of revolves around, and you can keep your center of mass lined up with that point, because that one point is effectively you. When that one object moves, or that one point moves, your whole body moves. When you keep those points stacked up, it doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't hurt your back. So you can really drive through the legs. You can train a fantastic position for a clean, a swing, a snatch, whatever. If you're not getting your hips back, it's a really solid move. It's a great way to train the lats, which are really important in some of your other ballistics. And you can progress it quite quickly with weight, and you can even add a ballistic component, which I really like as well. So you can get your legs going, and you can get 300 pounds on that bar, which you can't do the same way with kettlebells. It doesn't quite feel the same. You don't have the same balance. You don't have it doesn't feel safe. But when you can drive those legs It's been a game changer for both my position and my overall strength, grip strength. It's definitely been a big deal for me.
Yeah, I've started incorporating those too with my particular training right now, and I'll concur that they are really great. When you say a ballistic row, what are we talking about with that? Just break that down a little bit because I know people are going to try these bent over rows immediately.
Yeah,
Immediately.
maybe. If you look at the idea of ballistic, one of the criteria that you can use is that it should have two phases. Okay, there should be a, let's call it a launch phase, and there should be a free flight phase. So if, let's say, I want to make a rock ballistic, right? I want to throw it at someone who's making fun of kettlebells. So I'm going to have this period where my whole body goes through all these contortions, and I throw the rock. That's going to be the launch phase. And then the free flight phase is going to be the period between where the rock leaves my hand and smashes the face of the dirty loser who's disparaging kettlebells. Okay. So you need those two phases for something to be ballistic. When you're applying this to the row, you are using your legs to get it going. Okay. It's not going to be maybe as ballistic as a swing where your legs are doing all of the work and you could potentially let go of the bar. There are degrees of ballistic. So this is a little different here. So you're doing a hard drive, you're doing a hard leg drive. Um, you're getting it going. You can use your low back if that's something you want to train. It's not a bad thing to train your low back. A lot of people, especially the exercise purists or the people who are overly sciencey, like, oh, don't train your back. Like, well, why not? It's a muscle. There are
Yeah,
muscles
use
there.
it.
Why not make it strong, right?
Yeah.
These are the people who you want to ask to step outside to talk about some of their ideas, and they're the ones who are going to have bad backs and crumble anyway. So the idea with the ballistic row is you're going to push your feet into the floor, you're going to get some, let's call it momentum, and then you're going to follow through at the top. You're going to get a really strong squeeze with your lats. So you're going to use a little bit of momentum on the lift rather than just strict only using your arms and your back muscles to pull.
Okay. All right. I might have to give those a shot. I like it. All right. Those are our top five. This is your golden opportunity to leave your top five exercises in the comments. So if you made it this far, you know why we chose what we chose, how it's going to help complete your kettlebell training. So tell us if you agree, disagree, what you would choose, and why. We'd love to hear that. And as always, download the Bells app. It's on the Apple App Store. It's free. And trust me, you can do your barbell stuff with it too. All right.
And it's
Anything else,
portable. You
Roger?
can bring it to
Yeah.
the island with you.
Yeah. You bring it to the island. Yeah. You know, if you can charge your phone. Uh, Roger, anything else?
No, I am interested in hearing what people's moves are. There's a lot of good stuff, and you can make arguments for and against a lot of this stuff. This is the stuff that resonates with us. And again, this is unique to people who train, 90% plus with kettlebells. So, your accessories, the other things, if this were a barbell podcast and you were to ask, power lifters, they might say, hey, I'd bring a heavy kettlebell to do some swings. Maybe that would be their accessory, right? So you have to think about context. You have to think about your own practice, how you lift, and what your goals are. So ours align pretty well, and it really didn't take us long. To come up with this list. We both agreed on it pretty readily, but who knows what people will come up with.
Yeah, and we actually do this stuff too. So these are the ones that we do that we're not just like, hey, we think these are great. These are great. We use them for us.
Yep.
And we train with kettlebells all the time. So,
Yes, sir.
all right. Cool. Well, that's it. And like, follow, all that shit. Thanks for listening. Stay strong.